Hi everybody, it is Julie, and today I am here with my top 10 2019 releases that I read. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so today we're going to go over the top 10 books that I read in 2019 that I absolutely fell in love with, that I think really speak to my soul, and we're gonna unpack them a little bit. These are all 2019 releases, so nothing backlist and nothing arcs for 2020. Those will be separate videos. Well, some of them may be new to me. Some of them may be debut authors, so stay tuned because I also do a video on new to me and debut authors. I'm going to just pick from the top here. I do have them separated by like fantasy and then contemporary. Strangely more contemporary, but that's okay. First up was an absolute stunner, and that is Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. This one is one that really took me by surprise because it's a thriller. It is a paranormal mystery horror thriller. It is like a mix of a portal fantasy and Sadie. It has like police involvement trying to uncover what happened in the woods, as well as what happened in the woods, which is very fantasy based and portal and kind of like fantabulous. This one follows a girl whose sister has gone missing, and then every so often in the woods a road shows up, a ghost road shows up, and you can go there. There's certain rules for going, and you need different keys for different gates, and you travel through all these kind of like horrors to get to the end. And it's said to be haunted by one particular ghost, but she's going to go face all of that to get her sister back. And she brings her group of friends with her that's diverse and really cool. And this one terrified me, but like in the best way. The writing was stunning. I thought that it was really well written and really well executed. I loved it so much. I tabbed this so much with like theories and foreshadowing and spooky stuff, and like all of the yellow is where I was genuinely terrified, but this one was amazing. If you haven't read this yet and you like spooky mystery thriller horror fantasy, anything, I think if you like anything you'll like this. If you like kind of like police crime dramas, you'll like this. If you like portal fantasies, you'll like this. If you like fantasy, you'll like this. If you like horror, you'll like this. It's so good. It's so good. I wish more people were talking about this. It gave me like all the spooky feels. It's one of my favorite covers. I love this color scheme. I love the like hidden shadow of Alice. It's terrifying. It's so good. I love it. I unsurprisingly fell in love with another one of Moira Foley Doyle's books. This is All the Bad Apples. This was her 2019 release that follows a historical look, part historical, part contemporary look at Ireland and the way that Ireland's youth were treated, Ireland's women were treated, Ireland's queer women were treated, and a lot of Moira Foley Doyle's books follow queer women and witches or people with like witchy past. This one is no different. It was haunting because so much of it is based in like real life, but it's also really gorgeous and very magically written. It follows a very diverse friend group, a found family, like a solid friend dynamic, and then like people that they adopt along the way in this journey to find her aunt who has gone missing that everybody thinks is dead, but she doesn't think is dead. And it is stunning. Her writing forever takes me by surprise in the most beautiful way. I love it. Another one that I read and tabbed and annotated and was lucky enough to get an arc of and do have a finished copy of, but it's over on my shelves. But absolutely gorgeous. I loved this book. Another fantasy shocker. It was The Monster of Ellenhaven. This one is by Jennifer Giesbrecht. This one took me by surprise because it is a novella. It is very short. It's under 160 pages. This came with Middle Game. When they mailed me, when Tor, who's amazing to me, mailed me Middle Game because I was interested in that, they sent me this as well. And it was an unexpected little surprise, and I was like, oh, it looks really unassuming. I thought the cover looked a lot like the Deathly Hallows like guys, just like the kind of silhouette here. It says it's a black tide of perversity, violence, and lush writing, and that's a Joe Hill quote. When Joe Hill says that, like I can't even... Paul Tremblay said it's pitch dark, whimsical, topical, wild, lushly written. It was terrifying. It was gory. It was bloody. It also had like a surprise, really angsty queer romance in it. I lived for this book. It was very short, very quick, but really surprising for me because I didn't expect to love it. And I really, really did. And I haven't seen that many people really talking about it. Recently, more people have started, but this was a September release and it really took me by surprise. So if you're interested in having a really gorgeous cover, first of all, and a really short book for like readathons on your shelves that's diverse and really dark, this one's, it's amazing. I really loved it. Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. You guys know I fell in love with An Enchantment of Ravens last year. I love Margaret Rogerson's writing so much. This one just barely missed a 5-star for me. I had the arc of it. So the arc is what I read and annotated. This is the Owl Crate cover edition, so I do not have this one annotated. But I fell in love with Elizabeth Scrivener, who is our main character, who has lived her whole life at the libraries, these great libraries where they are tasked with keeping these tomes locked up because when they get out, they turn into these monstrous beasts. The sorcerer Nathaniel shows up. They form this like unlikely friendship, and then Nathaniel has a, like, not a henchman, but like a servant in his household named Silas, who I fell in love with. And I would love nothing more than Silas to have his own series or his own book. This is a standalone fantasy, and I adore her writing. This one is one that I still think about, that I really, really love, that I would love probably to reread. I'd love the chance to reread this and fall back into the world, but anything with like magical libraries and a love of like literature and the way that like everything kind of came full circle, it was really, really good, and I really, really liked it. So this one is a definite win. Then we get into contemporaries. Who knew I would have this many, but I do. Book number 5 is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston, which I've talked about a lot recently because this was a December read, but I fell in love with this. I didn't actually get to it before its release date in October, but I got to it in December, and I'm so glad I did. This one has a very large family and a girl suffering a heartache after a breakup, and they all try to help her by setting her up on blind dates with different people they think she might be good with. And it's got a fantastic actual family and then a fantastic friend group with like her cousins and a neighbor. It is so heartwarming and funny and fluffy, and it does exactly what you think it's going to do. There's no twists or turns. The love interest you think she's going to end up with is 100% who she ends up with, but the ride to get there is so much fun. It was so heartwarming. I really, really loved it. It was like all the feels that I wanted, all the laughs that I wanted. It was amazing. I really loved it. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we had one that just pissed me right off, and that is Girls on the Verge. This one's by Sharon Biggs Waller, and this one is about a girl who finds herself pregnant and doesn't want to keep the baby, but there is no healthy, safe, reasonable means for her to obtain an abortion or the morning after pill. And so she goes on a quest to just try to gain autonomy over her own body, and it is so maddening, and your heart breaks for this girl. And I think in stories like this, you get a lot of people that are slut shaming, you get a lot of people that are trying to spout religion at them and all the ways and reasons why they shouldn't have an abortion, but the choice is ultimately theirs, and it is so frustrating to watch these young girls go through what they're going through, but it also stays with you in a way that it should stay with you. It should anger you, and it's doing exactly what it is meant to do, and it was just so gorgeously written. I really loved this one. Again, another short one, a fantastic read. If you have not read it yet, I do recommend it. Then we had one that I read in ARC form, but I did get final copies of. I met S.K. Ali at BEA, and she signed it for me, and she was just the sweetest human being in the whole wide world. But Love from A to Z is a gorgeous story that covers a lot of really hard topics. It covers grief, it covers loss of a parent, it covers chronic illness and terminal illnesses, it covers Islamophobia. In this one, we follow Zainab after she's had a conflict with a teacher who is very xenophobic, and she ends up going to see her aunt in Qatar. And then on the way there, she meets Alex, A-Z, and they form a little relationship, and then when they get there they realize that they have like people in common, and the story follows from there, and it's very heartwarming, very respectful, very, very nice. I loved this book. I loved meeting S.K. Ali. She's just like the sweetest, and yeah, it was a beautiful book, and I really, really loved it. It was definitely a standout contemporary for me. Also, a standout contemporary for me was Red, White, and Royal Blue. Who is surprised? This one is by Casey McQuiston. This is her debut new adult. Follows an alternative U.S. history where we have a female president instead of the one we have now. And it follows the first son of that female president who has a love-hate relationship, mainly hate at the beginning, with a prince of England, and they have a little bit of a falling out that ends up being public, and so they need to have a very public friendship after that, which turns into something more, and it's incredibly sweet. And I don't think I full 5-starred this because the political aspects of it towards the end, when I was really invested in the relationship, towards the end it turned into a lot of political stuff and it took me out of the romance again. But then it came back around, but it wasn't like perfection for me. But oh my god, it is one of the most humorous, laugh out loud funny contemporaries that I have read in a very long time. It was amazing. And if you've read this and you didn't laugh out loud at the turkey scene, I don't know what's wrong with you, but it's adorable. Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett. And I think I 5-star almost all of Jen Bennett's, if not all of Jen Bennett's work. I adore her writing. Her contemporaries are always very diverse, very sex positive, and tackle topics that I think are not talked about that often. This one actually has a grandfather and potentially a main character with narcolepsy. It follows a main love interest who is, I believe, biracial and also has a hearing impairment. And it's one that I read a long time ago because I had an ARC and then I got a finished copy, but I love Jen Bennett's writing. The way that she writes contemporaries is fantastic. This one was a little kitschier than her other books because it does follow like a little bit of a mystery plot where they're trying to figure out who one of the frequent users of their hotel that they work at is, because they check in like the same time every month or something. So there's a little bit of like a mystery aspect to this book that I didn't love as much, but there's also a Labyrinth reference in this, and I love me a good Labyrinth reference. And then the 10th book, which really should not be a surprise to anybody, is The Way to the Stars by Kay Ancrum. I found and fell in love with Kay Ancrum this year, and not only is she just an amazing human being who is incredible in and of herself, check her out on Twitter for sure, but she's also just a beautiful writer, and she writes the kind of characters I love that are kind of broken and rough and tumble in situations where they have very, very tight friendships because maybe family isn't there for them. And all of those are like big buzzwords for me. This one follows Ryan and Alex, and it follows them as Alex comes to terms with the fact that her mother has left and gone on a space mission where she's never returning, and Ryan is trying to befriend her because she's also obsessed with space missions, and something is kind of, there's a connection there between, I think, like her parents had like a tragic death, but they were also maybe involved in this space mission. And it follows Ryan and her brother and their group of friends, and then Alex eventually, and it is, oh god, it's so good, and I cried so much, and I loved it so much. And not only was I lucky enough to get an ARC of this and read this, but then after reading this and raving about it and like crying on social media and writing like a rave review for it, Kay Ancrum actually signed and personalized this for me. It says, "Thank you for the lovely review." She sent this to me with her own money from her own stock of books, because she said that my review made her mother cry, which is just like the sweetest thing ever. And I love it. I love Kay Ancrum. I will read anything she writes. She does have a Peter Pan retelling that's like a dark Peter Pan retelling coming out in 2021, I think. I thought it was gonna be 2020, but I think it's 2021. Regardless, I will buy anything that this woman writes. It is so phenomenal, so heartwarming, and so lovely, and it was just like everything I want in a contemporary and more. It is pure perfection for me personally. It's like my perfect brand of contemporary. That is my 10 books that I fell in love with in 2019. I'd love to know what yours are. I am hoping for a very strong 2020 because this one I struggled. Like, some of these were not even rated on Goodreads as full 5 stars, and I struggled to kind of put together a list. But then I went through some of my 4 stars and I realized that I still think about them and I still love them and I still rave about them and recommend them. So I went ahead and included them in this because It's probably something technical that made me keep it from like a full 5 stars, but the enjoyment level of it, how much I love and recommend it, is full 5 stars. So those are my loves for the year of 2019. I seriously fell in love with these books. I can't wait to hear what your favorites are. Did you also favorite one of these? And if not, and you have a completely different favorite for 2019, let me know in a comment down below. I would love to know what it is. That's gonna be it for the first of my like end of the year videos. There's more to come, guys, a lot more to come. That's it for today. So if you like this video, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Bye, guys.